It's a great day. My name is Che Brown, the Happy Entrepreneur, and welcome everybody to the Happy Entrepreneur Show, the number one business development and revenue focused late night show in the country where we are on a mission. And our mission really is to empower, our mission is to inspire, and our mission is to provide you, the hard working entrepreneur, with all of the resources that are necessary to execute that big vision you have for the people you were called to serve. And on this episode, we have the one and only Belinda Lane. She's in the building, and she'll be talking about the trial of purpose. Okay, we'll find out what that's all about. Can't wait to talk about that in a minute. What's going on? How are you doing, Belinda?
I am doing great. It's a wonderful day. I've been in Pennsylvania for a year now, and I truly coming from Georgia for over 30 years, and I thought that single digits and degrees was a myth. I didn't know that 2 and 3 degrees were real. So I actually had to buy a coat, because we use jackets and shawls. Yeah. So, but I'm loving it. I'm loving it.
Well, I'm glad you're here. Thank you so much. And shout out to Matthew C. Horn for connecting us together. Amazing individual. Before we get started, we're talking about the trial of purpose. And I guess what I'm thinking of, number one, what is your definition of purpose? Because it means different things to different people.
Right. My definition is the reason why I'm here, the reason why I was born. Purpose, I'm here for a purpose. I'm here to do something while I'm here. And what I want to do is make sure that I am doing it and that other people will also know. And I know that they do know that we really do have a purpose, and our purpose is what is going to make society, makes the earth, make the world, and for us to walk into it because we look around and we see so many people that are struggling and when a lot of times when I look at the homeless, which is a passion for me, I see people that have lost purpose, and I think purpose gives us meaning.
I like that. Now, I'm curious, why are people struggling with purpose these days when they have AI or ChatGPT? They can go to it and ask it a question. They'll tell them what their purpose is. They can look on Instagram, and there's someone every day telling them what
Right,
their purpose is. They can be motivated watching YouTube on any given day. So I
right.
guess the question is, and she's written a book, ladies and gentlemen, we'll get into that in a minute, but why are people struggling to understand their purpose these days? What's the big deal?
One of the things that I recall is that when you look at a lot of millionaires, billionaires, and a lot of them, you read their story, and on their deathbed, one of the things they say is that they were not fulfilled. So a lot of times, I think we look at things as the meaning for us, and yes, things are definitely meaningful, but you still have to have some kind of fulfillment. I think a lot of people are walking around and there's no fulfillment. And because there's no fulfillment, it's causing a lot of destruction, I think, throughout the land. Because when you understand and know your purpose and your meaning, Mother Teresa, she knew her purpose, you know. So I think when you see it, a lot of times it may not, and a lot of times people think it means making money, having status. That may not be. My purpose may be to stand behind you, to be in to push you to what your purpose is, and I'm serving my purpose. So it may not always give me a title, and it may not always give me the money that I'm looking for, but it's giving me the fulfillment.
Well, Belinda, you've served people through so many hard seasons in their life. I'm curious, how has purpose, how's those experiences, I should say, shape your view on purpose?
I have worked with domestic violence. I'm originally from Baltimore, Maryland. So I started with the House of Ruth back in the 70s. And when I saw the women that were coming through, I think the thing that kind of got me was the children, because some of the women coming through, they were children also of domestic violence. And yet they still grew up in that position that now they're adults with children that's in domestic violence. So, for one of the things for me, I think that when you understand your purpose, it helps you to get out of situations or to look for something different. You cannot stay in the same position and follow in the footsteps of others that's in a position that you do not want to be in. And that's what I saw in domestic violence.
And as you were saying that, you've seen domestic violence, you've been there. Ladies and gentlemen, I think it's a good segue because someone's listening right
Mhm.
now and they didn't read your bio. They don't know about the
Right.
book, but they don't know about your own personal backstory, your own personal journey. Before we get to the next question, which is going to be soon, how does
Mhm.
someone find their purpose when they feel broken and they've been broken and let down? We'll get to that in a minute. But first, tell us who you are. I know this is kind of crazy because we've been talking already, but as famous as you are, as many books as you've written, all that you've done in life, there's someone that might be meeting you for the very first time through the power of these fiber optic lines, and they're just meeting you.
Right.
So can we slow down for a moment and you can tell folks,
Okay.
who are you? Your backstory that led you to be so passionate about what you're doing now.
I am, and don't judge me, I am a PK kid. I'm a pastor's kid. And I always have to stand in defense of us because we grow up having to be the way our parents want us to be and look, having to be the way members in the church feels that pastors' children should be. So by the time we get out on our own, it's like we don't know who we are. So we're trying to find ourselves and trying to find ourselves. We're gonna stumble. We're gonna fall because you gotta think 18 and on up, and you're just now trying to find out who you are. So for me, I actually left home on the date of my 18th birthday. And so I went out into a world that I knew nothing about because we were in holiness. And so and as far as coming up, so we didn't do anything. So I knew nothing about living outside the church. And it never was my intent to do that. But, I got caught up in that lifestyle, and it traumatized me because I used to have blackouts for about 6 years. I used to have blackouts. I could be somewhere, and I don't mean just pass out. I could be like going to a party, and we're in a car riding back, and I wake up 2 days later in the hospital or at one of my friends' house. Once they got used to me, passing out. And then I used to do sleepwalking. When I tell you, there's a book called The Body Keeps Score. And I tell anybody that book, it is fascinating because everything that we think we forgot, there's a trigger within us that goes off. And we started seeing and doing things, wondering why we are. But if you sit down and think about it, you can always go back to the root of it. And I can remember getting up and going out, and I have another book called Standing on the Edge of Your Tomorrow. And the first story in there tells about my experiences, with the sleepwalking and the passing out. And then my whole thing was I wanted to find safety. I wanted to feel safe, so I got mixed up with the wrong crowd. And when you get mixed with the wrong crowd, a lot of times you don't get out when you want to get out, which I found out. So my life was very, very complicated in my early late teens and early 20s. Very complicated. So it was quite traumatic.
Mm. And here you are now doing all that you're doing today. Thank you so much for
Yes.
helping other folks live the life they truly desire.
Yeah, yeah. And that's what I want to do because, I've always been a reader, always. And and I'm going to tell you, when I say reading saved my life between prayer and reading, it did because, and I'm not a novelist. I don't read novels. I'm reading about, individuals, what they did, what happened in their life, and things like that, how they made it through. And with that, it helped me to know that I can make it.
You can make it. That is so true. And so that's a good segue to the question that I was wondering, and someone listening might have the same question as well, which is how can someone, or what would you recommend someone do that has is in a place where they're lost right now, and they have been broken, and maybe they're getting unstuck. Maybe there's one, two, or three suggestions you have for them to kind of, I don't want to say get back on track, but I will say get back on track.
Yeah.
Anything you have to that person that's watching right now?
Support groups are good. And I think they have support groups for you name it, there's a group out there. And to be able to be with someone that is going through what you're going through, it helps you, it gives you strength. And so I think support groups are good. For me, honestly, I'm telling you, it was me getting myself back in church. It was me reading my Bible. It was me praying. And I take the Bible literally. When it talks about faith and it talks about wisdom, to me, I see them. I mean, they're in another realm, but I see them. I talk to faith. I talk to wisdom. I get a situation. I said, okay, wisdom, we see the situation that I'm in. How should I handle this situation? And the Bible says in Proverbs that, wisdom is my sister and understanding is my friend. So, and then plus when it talks about faith too, you got to think about it. Faith, faith cometh by hearing, but hearing what? The word of God. So I'm crying or I'm whining or I'm moaning, I'm whatever. And faith is like, goodness gracious, when is she gonna call me? When am I gonna get a chance to help her? So I literally talk to the entities that are, that are there to help me. My angel, I truly believe it with all my heart. I'm gonna tell you, when I say I believe in angels, there's nothing on earth that can tell me that there are not really angels out there.
I
Because
believe
I've
it
experienced it.
100%.
Yeah.
Indeed. I believe that. I'm curious, what inspired you to write the book, The Trial of Purpose? And how is your own journey a part of that story that's inside of there?
The characters in there are broken dreamer, waiting for my breakthrough, and victim. So all I did was pull out parts of me and put it on paper because I wanted people to see. Now they in the book, they start out in the unknown realm. They're not in the visible realm. And when they are birthed into the world, they are birthed into the world as dreamer, as breakthrough, and as victor. But as circumstances happen to them, that's how they get these names: broken dreamer, victim, waiting for my breakthrough. And uh, destiny is the defense attorney, and deception is um, the prosecutor. Judge, the judge is time, and the jury is the heart of man. So I do a whole scene around that to show they didn't come here when they were birthed here. They were birthed here as what they were supposed to be, but how life set in, and how they chose to react and accept life is what carried them down. And I made that the witnesses for destiny is circumstances and challenges. So you would think, okay, circumstances and challenges is a witness for destiny, for purpose. But it is because everything we read, think about Shay, everything we read about when we look at people's bio, we look at what they went through to get where they are. So they went through challenges, they went through circumstances. And I always say we need to look at, I, I what helped me in one of my lowest moments was that I stopped looking at that I had a problem. I started looking at I have a situation. And just saying, when you say situation, you think, okay, I have a situation. So you feel like there's a way out. You feel like, but when you say you have a problem, it kind of it's like it weighs down on you. You can't think. And I always say a problem is success in work clothes.
I like that. So, what is one way that someone could start listening to their inner voice again, to help them kind of move forward?
They got to get quiet because the noise in your head is going to be there. And until you can truly get quiet with yourself, like the old folks used to say, set with yourself, you know, until you can truly sit and get quiet. And for me, like I say, it's reading my Bible, it's prayer, and I be like, it's so funny because I even all my books I buy kind of faith based. And I was sitting in this place, it's like a shop, a coffee shop, and I was reading, and this lady walked over to me. She said, I just want to say, it is so refreshing to see somebody reading a book because people are always on their cell phone. And the thing I don't understand, how do families go out when they should be interacting? And I have seen it. Everybody, the mom, the dad, the children, separately on their cell phones. No one is talking. This communication is becoming so limited. We don't talk.
Yeah. Yeah, and that is so true. You give a lot of advice in the book. Congratulations on completing yet another
Thank you.
book, by the way, that's going to make a difference in the world. One of the questions I like to ask, and we have a few minutes, we have some now, is what's one of the best pieces of advice you've ever been given? And I like to frame it for the audience so they're aware you've had lots of mentors on this journey. You don't even count the number of books you probably read anymore. I used to count the books I read, and I can't do that anymore. I just read one, listen to one on
Oh,
another Audible, and I just keep on going. But if you had to step back and say, you know what, Shay, this is one of the best pieces of advice that's ever been given to me that I want to share with the audience, what is it and why?
again, that how we look at something determines how we go through it. So if I'm looking at it as, God, this is a problem, I don't know what to do with it. Um, One of the things that I was working for a telecommunication company, and we knew a couple of years before they were brought out that this company was buying them. So they started taking away all the perks and things that we had. And so we were like, the older ones of us, we was like, okay, well, we need to get out of here. We're not going to have nothing that we worked hard for. But when I did that, I wasn't thinking about my age and how hard it was going to try to be to try to find a good job or, something like that, and I had a house. And I was like, oh my God, so I had a house note. And even though I had I could pay my house note, but the other bills were taken from that. I can remember some nights I would, when I tell you, there's a song that Mary sang, I cried my last tear. No, I didn't cry my last tear. My last tear couldn't get out. I'm literally, I was like, but the moment I started saying, okay, this didn't catch God by surprise, so I'm not going to let it catch me by surprise. There is a solution. I'm in a situation, and that's the only thing I can really say. I'm in a situation, so now let's work towards a solution. Because every time I say there's a problem, it's like you feel heavy and weighted down and you can't think. But no, solution is just, I'm in a situation, so I know I'm going to come out of it.
I love it. And as you was talking throughout your book, throughout today's discussion, you talk a lot about pain and how pain can, in so many ways, help you. I guess my question is, what role does pain play in helping us grow to be the person we were meant to be? I know we all don't have to experience pain, but when someone's had pain,
Right.
how does that help them grow to be the person they were meant to be? Or how has it helped you?
Well, it has helped me because I knew that what I was with that pain, that wasn't me. I knew that there's something beyond this. And if I don't get rid of this, try to find a way out of this, I am going to be lost. There was a story I was reading about a gentleman, and this was back in the when they had horse and buggies. So it was back in the 1800s. They had horse and buggies, and there was a terrible accident, and the buggy crushed, and the man was thrown, and the wheel came off. And just as he went passed out, he saw the wheel coming towards his leg and he passed out. Well, someone grabbed the wheel and it did not hit his leg. But what his mind saw was that it did. And the story say that man never walked again because he believed that happened. So a lot of times is what we what do I believe in my mind? What is it that I'm totally focusing on? And our belief level is really what can make us or break us. How do I believe?
Well said, by the way. As we're talking today, there's another one of my questions I like to ask, which is you've been through a lot, you've seen a lot, you've helped folks that are transitioning, and you're helping them find their purpose. I'm curious, what does success look like for you these days, for where you are in your life? What does it look like for you? Because I haven't heard you talk about it's just about getting more money. I haven't heard you talk about it's just about getting more people to buy a book. So what does success look like for you these days?
Well, success looks like to me is with my books because I'm hoping to pass out wisdom. I used to always say I want to be a bestseller, but I didn't want to be a bestseller for the money. Being a bestseller would let me know how many people have read my book, and that I'm hoping that what they read would help them. And really, that's what I do here. I have people, ones that have gotten my books that they do groups with. That's my whole thing, is just helping people to know that yes, you can make it. Because I've been down there, and there were times I had nobody telling me I could make it. But then there were times I had people that reached out their hand and said, "Come on, Belinda, I got you." You know. So I've been on both sides. So yeah. So I guess in answer to your question, to just know that you do have a purpose. And I think when you really know that, understand that you have a reason for being, a lot of people, I have people that are my age that say, I don't know why I'm here. How do you not know?
What do you
Some
what do
people
you what do you actually say to those people when they say that to you?
read,
What do you
read my
say?
book. Read I'm saying you've got to have some kind of clue, but you have to realize that's coming from a person that's really unfulfilled, you know. And a lot of times, like I said, we look at fulfillment or whatever as having, money or having prestige or having the house. And for some people, it's not that. That's not what fulfilled them. Uh, Paying for the person that's in front of you in line, and you see them, in their purse trying to find whatever, and you say, "I got it." Can you imagine? That's just like floating all day long because you did something for somebody else, and that's it. I've seen a mother that had like 4 or 5 children, and she was trying to, do something, I think, for them. And when I do something, the person never knows. I told God I want to be a philanthropist, and I said, "But God, you got to give me the money so I can do that." Because it wouldn't be for me. I went and paid for this lady's meal. She never knew it. You know, she was trying to do something for her family. So many people are trying to, they want to do, but they can't do. But then there's some of us, and I don't have a lot of money, but I know that I do have that I can do, and I try to make sure that I do. That makes sense.
Yes, it does. It makes sense totally, by the way. What do you do for fun? We're not out saving the world, writing books, giving people advice, helping them find their purpose. What does fun look like for you these days?
Cruising. That's what
Oh
I
no!
want to do.
What do you like to cruise to?
I'm okay. I'm strange about this because it doesn't make a difference because I really probably won't get off the ship. It's so much to do on the ship.
Yes, there
And
is.
just being in that atmosphere and looking out at that water and seeing the sun come up, the sun go down. I had some of my relatives say I was boring, but I'd be so fulfilled. I'd be laughing. I feel good. I have a niece now that's part of the Royal Caribbean. She's on the Harmony of the Sea. She's an entertainer. And just, being there and seeing her But I want to be one of those ones that say, yeah, this is my 20th cruise. That's what
Whoa.
makes me feel good. And I
Have you
have
done
met people
20
that have
cruises?
been there.
That's woo.
Oh yeah. Oh, I have met people. I have Facebook friends that, this is their 20th or 25th cruise. Or, I was like, God, I want that to be my testimony. I'm honestly, I am a loner, somewhat of a loner, which means I can enjoy myself just being by myself. And I'm trying to snap out of it. But I'm like, it just feels good. So, um, yeah, so fun for me would definitely be cruising and writing. I just, sometimes, and this is the honest truth. Every book I've started, I had no ending for it. I probably didn't have a middle part for it. It's just that I just started writing, and as I'm writing, it comes, and I was like, wow, so sometimes I get caught up too.
I love it, by the way. As we come down the home stretch, a two-part question. Number one, what type of clients are you looking to work with, if any? And number two, how can folks get the book? How can they connect with you? Where should they go? This is exciting. The Trial of Purpose.
Okay. For the Trial of Purpose, I'm on BelindaMLane.com. They can go out there and Google it, and it'll bring up my book. Uh, Also, with my other book, I'm on Amazon. But I also have an email address. It's Belinda, the number 2, speak at gmail.com. So you can definitely get to me through those three methods.
I love it. Let me say thanks so much for being on the Happy Entrepreneur Show. Can't wait to have you back
Oh, it
again
has been
soon.
a
Amazing.
pleasure. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
And thank you, viewers. Thank you for tuning in, because without you, well, we don't have a show. So we appreciate you being a part of this. Thanks for allowing us to stream
Yes.
into your home. With that being said, make it a great day, everyone. And keep doing God's work. We'll see you all on the other side. Peace.
And
We
thank
out
you
of
for
here.
serving purpose, sir.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody.